So one of the things we've also talked about in prior times are just some of the struggles, some of the mindset. Being an entrepreneur, it's a lot of sleepless nights. It's truly just one of the most genuine acts of humanity where you're just giving of yourself, and it doesn't always go well for some people. I'm sure you've gone through some stress and some things where you've learned some lessons. So what advice would you have for somebody that is either starting up or just kind of at that place where they're thinking, I just don't know if this is worth it for me? What have you learned, and what kind of things could you offer up to some of the other folks out there?
I think the biggest thing is realizing that it can't be about the money.
Okay.
Because when it comes to those sleepless nights, or you're putting in the 14th hour of your day, the money isn't going to be enough to get you through that. It's got to be about passion. Mm-hmm. So you have to absolutely love what you do and realize, kind of going back to the why you do what you do. I think that was a huge component to the struggles, especially in the first year of trying to understand, like, okay, how are we going to get through this? And we just my business partners and I just kept going because we had this belief that this thing we were trying to do was going to help change the world. And we hold on to that very strongly today.
Wow. Well, I want to compliment you on what you said there about it not being about the money. Just last week, and we didn't even talk about this. Last week I was reading The 9 Mindsets of Billionaires, which, I think listening to a billionaire and say, what do you think, is kind of a cool thing. Maybe you can learn something from them. Yeah. And one of the mindsets of a billionaire is they said exactly the same thing. It's never about the money. It's always about a purpose, or for them about relationships. And so I compliment you on that. That's really cool to hear about. So one other thing I would also be curious you talking about, I have suggested in prior videos that really the most profitable way to grow your business is to take your current capabilities or your current products and services and really try to get your existing clients to adopt those or use those in their business. Now, I don't suggest that that's the only way. I mean, you've obviously got to be doing new product development, and you've got to be doing new client development. But let's talk for a little while about that one square there of your current capabilities and your current clients. How do you go about getting current clients to learn more of your capabilities and ultimately to buy more from you?
It's been interesting. I mean, when we started this business, we looked at all of these capabilities that we had. And the first thing that we did was go, okay, well, what are people looking for? What do they say or think that they need? By going through the things that people are searching online, we came to the conclusion, okay, well, it's web design. And so we have people who are coming to us, talking to us about, we need a new website. But once you start going back to that core question of why, why do you want a website? Well, we want more business. Well, why do you want more business? And then once you get through enough of those questions and you start learning more about their business, you can start finding some of the other holes in their thinking and in their plans. Again, we can look at cost savings, or is the website really what needs fixed, or is it you need to figure out an overall communications plan?
Okay.
Is it looking, I think a lot of small businesses that we work with have no idea how to even establish a marketing budget.
So a lot of what you're doing is helping people really clarify their business strategy, it sounds like. And what, again, remind me of your slogan?
Strategy before design.
And I don't know if you call it a slogan or not. Is that?
Yeah, slogan, tagline.
Okay.
We can
But I know it means more to you than a slogan. It really is. It's your purpose. So let's also come back to purpose. I mean, you talked a lot about why, and I find that really interesting and frankly notable that you have a company that you started out from the beginning, I think, with this purpose. Mm-hmm. How much do you and your partners talk about purpose? I mean, because it's easy to do it, as an activity. And hey, we did our purpose 6 years ago. It seems to me like though you have a different level of conversation in your company where. So I mean, do you guys actively talk about purpose and then bring decisions back to, hey, do we want to do this based upon our purpose and our why? I mean, so talk a little bit about how you keep it alive.
I mean, it's kind of it's an ongoing thing. I mean, you have, you can write your mission statement and you can plaster it on a wall, and that's good and fine. But if you just write it as that checklist item, it doesn't mean anything. So if you have a mission statement, it should be something that you can kind of go back to time and time again, and you say, is this initiative that we're taking, does this relate back to the mission statement?
And
Is
others,
this what we
can you
believe
think
in?
of a specific time or two where you kind of filtered it through that litmus test and that process and said yes or no?
Yeah, there were plenty of times where there was opportunity to work on a client, and we started looking at it and we were like, this doesn't really fit with what we're trying to achieve as a business. I mean, there's, maybe there's money there, but that derails us from what we're really trying to achieve. So we've walked away from those types of things.
So what is that like? So just walk us through the mindset, especially when you're in a startup business, where it could be so easy to say, we're going to chase every dollar. I mean, that's probably a natural tendency that a lot of local businesses go through. But you have had situations where you've said, no, that's not our purpose. Frank, how do you find the courage to do that?
It's we kind of have this mindset of who we want to be as a company, and we wanted to work with reputable businesses, and the money might have been right, but it definitely wasn't something that we wanted people to look at us for.
Right. So one of the phrases that I use occasionally too is to do a common thing in an uncommon way. And as a business leader, having that absolute sense of purpose, that's not common. And it's something I think is just so notable about your company. It makes you guys uniquely different. And that's you. I know you're a very humble guy, and it's not easy for you to say things like, but as a person looking at you, the kind of person you are and the company you're running, that's not common. And that's something that makes you unique and different, which again is so easy in business to forget that our purpose has to be to create difference. And so often we end up doing a common thing in a common way. And I got to tell you, if you're going to do that, you're going to compete on price all your life, and you're going to live a miserable, horrible life. And so again, I just want to compliment you on that, and having what I consider to be the strength of character, the clarity of purpose and intent. That is just an example of some of the things I've talked about here. Taking my ideas, they weren't my ideas, but taking the nebulous concepts and you're doing it. That's why I compliment you on it. So I'd love to hear too, when you think about the future, what do you think about doing next or doing with your current company?
It's kind of taking our vision, right? Like we checked that off. The vision was, how do we prove this model? Mm-hmm. We're not so smart that we created the idea of a virtual agency. It was something that you take pieces and parts just like everyone does, and you create your plan. The idea was, we've executed this fairly well in the last 2 years with our business. How do we take this and start to show other businesses within the service-based world, that they can enable people to have the freedom to be able to work on their own hours, to be able to set their own schedules. Mm-hmm. We've had a project manager who spent 3 months in South America. She was able to execute her position well because she believes in kind of what we're doing, and so I think that was a perfect example of somebody who's been able to take this concept and run it. My goal now is, how do we take that into the future, show other businesses that they can do this, and then from there a step further and create a network of businesses that are kind of running on all cylinders and embodying that virtual world, and then bring those together to help other small businesses to grow over time.
Mm-hmm. Another thing I hear you doing, and at the age I am, I really do I'm always linking things back to some foundational things I learned as a young person, and then also embracing the future. And what I hear, and this may surprise you to hear this connection, but America was really founded on this idea, which was a new idea at the time, that people are smart, they're intelligent, given freedom, they can do amazing things. Mm-hmm. And it sounds like that old idea that got started back in the 1700s. You probably weren't thinking about the Constitution, but I see that same ethic of saying, what? People are smart. People are motivated. If we create a culture where we honor them and trust them, they'll produce amazing things. Is that?
Absolutely. We have our beliefs, and we've got those documented. And one of those, it's one of the first 5, is that we believe that you should fail harder. we embrace people failing because
That's really cool.
if you're not failing, it's probably because you're doing the same things over and over and over again. And if you're doing that, we're not being innovative. We're not trying new things.
Right.
Because I think so many times in corporate cultures, you have this fear of, well, if I screw up, I might lose my job.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that worry about that.
My fear is if we're not doing innovative things and staying kind of on that cutting edge or bleeding edge, we're going to be irrelevant.
Yeah.
So I believe that if you give smart people the ability to try new things, and even if they're going to screw up, it's failure isn't fatal.
Right.
So let's make some mistakes. Let's run fast, break things, and then we'll keep going.
That's a really healthy attitude. I think that'll set you up for decades of success. So when you think about the things that you're really proud of, what comes to mind?
The team.
It doesn't surprise me that you'd say people. That's probably what I expected.
Yeah, it's our team is why we're still here. We had a great idea. I think I'll be the first to admit we didn't really know what we were doing. We were building the aircraft as it was taking off, but it was the people that came together and really executed at a high level that is why we're still here and why we're on an incredible growth trajectory.
It's really neat. So this series is really all about being a resource for local business people out there to come and maybe get reminded of things they knew or maybe learn some new things. What would you say to the local business owner out there? What kind of advice or wisdom? You don't have any gray hair, but you've got some wisdom. What kind of thing would you say to the local business owner out there that's either starting or struggling or mid-career, that just wants a little extra oomph, or what comes to mind for you?
There's so many great pieces of advice that I've been given over the years. It's tenacity. When we launched, one of the pieces of advice that somebody gave me was grow like a weed. Because when you're first starting, it's terrifying. I think there was a quote from Elon Musk that he described being an entrepreneur as chewing glass and staring off into the abyss. And there are times that is true. I think there are also times that you're overcome by like joy when you see things just running on all cylinders and people executing and the work is great, and it took a long time to get there and it was a struggle, but it's worth it.
So tenacity and grit and hang in there.
Yeah.
That's a great piece of advice. That's a really good piece of advice. So, hey, I just want to thank you again. I love local businesses. I thank you for the courage. I just think what you do matters so much in making the local community better, and you are doing it in a way that is so distinctively different. You're not just about selling products, which is okay. We all got to sell something, right?
Right.
But you've got this purpose, and it contributes so significantly to people's lives, to the betterment of business. You're all about freedom and trust and encouraging and growing people, and I want to thank you for what you do. That's really cool. It's been a pleasure spending time with you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.